Shabbat morning. Shabbat shalom, this good morning. I'd like to welcome you to Congregation Beth-El on this Shabbat morning, whether you're joining us in person or by live stream to celebrate with Sadie Cohen as she becomes a bat mitzvah in the circle of her loved ones and friends. I am Rabbi Dennis Sasso, and I'm accompanied on the bima by Rabbi Hal Shevitz, cantor Melissa Cohen, who serves the dual role of our cantor and the mother of the bat mitzvah on this Shabbat morning, our organist Charles Manning, and representing the board of directors, our president Todd Maurer. Delighted to welcome you to our Shabbat celebration and call your attention to our website for those of you who are joining us by live stream at bez613.org, where you can access Shabbat virtual resources that will enable you to participate in our services as we move along through the liturgy this morning. It's wonderful to see a large and growing congregation, and we are anticipating that we will all have a lot of spiritual depth and celebration and fun as we welcome Sadie to the community of mitzvah, of those who uphold the traditions of Judaism. We'll begin the service with the chanting of Matovu on page 101 in the prayer book, Sidur Lev Shalem. And Matovu is a collection of biblical verses that gives voice to the joy of coming together for worship. Page 101, Matovu Ohaleha Yaakov. How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. We invite Sadie to the pulpit, and she will lead us, beginning on page 103, with preliminary blessings of thanksgiving for the beginning of a new day, the Birchot HaShachar, page 103.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech vivina lechavchin ben yom uvein laila.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani betzomo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorin.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamachin mitzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa li kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael betifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanotei layef koach.
Amen. We continue on page 122, and Sadie continues with Baruch She'amar, a celebration of God's creative powers.
Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch hu. Baruch hu sever reshit Baruch omer ve'oseh Baruch Gozer Kayim, Baruch Merachem al Haaretz, Baruch Merachem al Habriot, Baruch Meshalim Sachar Tov Lireya, Baruch Chai V'Chayam LaNetzach, Baruch Podeh Umatzil, Baruch Shemo.
Turn to page 136 and we continue with Ashrei. Biblical verses, mostly from Psalm 145. You may follow a transliteration of these readings on page 181, and we sing antiphonally, responsively with Sadie. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, 136.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Odi Hallelujah Selah.
Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav.
Tehillah leDavid, Abramimcha Elohai HaMelech, V'yavarcha Shimcha le'olam va'ed.
B'kol yom avarechecha, Shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai uhulam le'od, V'li gdulato ein cheker.
Dor le'dor yishabach ma'asecha, u'gevurotecha yagidu.
Hadar kavod hodecha, V'divrei lifleotecha asicha.
Ve'ezuz norotecha yomeru, u'gevuratecha yitzaprena.
Zecherav tuvecha yabi'u, V'tzidkatcha yaranenu.
Hanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim u'tal chesed.
Tov Adonai lakol, V'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yodu ha'Adonai kol ma'asecha, Hasideka yevarechucha.
Kevod malchutecha yomeru, ugvuratecha yedaberu.
Lehodia livnei ha'adam gevurotav, ukevod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umem shatecha bechol dor vador.
Somech Adonai lekol hanoflim, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Einechol elecha yesaberu, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו.
פותח את ידיך, משביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, וכל אשר יקראו באמת.
רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, כל הרשעים ישמיד.
תהילה אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר, שם קודשו לעולם ועד.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. נשמת כל חי תברך את שמך, אדוני אלוהינו. Breath of all that lives praises you, Adonai. The spirit of all flesh animate, exalts you, our sovereign always. We turn to page 147 for the introduction of the Shacharit, or morning service. 147, Shochein ad Marom.
Shochein ad Marom, v'kadosh shemo, v'chatuv ranenu, tzadikim b'Adonai, לישרים נאווה תהילה, בפי שערים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב הקדושים תתקדש, ובמקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתבער שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור. שכן חובת כל היצורים לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לבאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, לעלה ולקליס, על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי, עבדך משיחך ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו אל המלך הגדול והקדוש ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו.
ותשבחות אל ההודאות אדון הנפלאות הבוחר בשירי זמר המלך אלוהי העולמים.
Please rise at page 148 for the Hatzi Kaddish.
Yikada v'yikadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Be'alma divarach yirtei v'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayedechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach. Le'alam ulam ne'amaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yithalal Shemei Dekudesha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'ne'emata Damiran Be'alma V'yimeru. Amen.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל.
Praise are you, Adonai, sovereign of time and space, who forms light, creates darkness, and brings harmony to all creation. Please be seated. We continue on page 151. Sadie leads us in the chanting of El Adon, a medieval song of creation.
El Adon al kol hamaasim baruch umvorach befi kol neshama golo vetuvo male olam da'at udvuna sovevimoto Hamid Gael al Hayot HaKodesh v'nedor bechavod al hamerchava zehut umishor lifnei chiso chesed v'rachamim lifnei kevodo Tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu yetzaram beda'at bevina ufaskel koach uvuna natam bahem liot moshlim bekerev tevel maleim zivu mefikim noga na'ezivam bechol ha'olam שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים באימה רצון קונם פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמות סולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו רעה ושמש ויזרח אור רעה וחיתקים צורת הבנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש.
Having given thanks for the physical world in which we live, we now give thanks for the Torah, which is our guide, spiritual guide through the world. On page 154, please join me in the first paragraph. You have loved us deeply, Adonai our God, and showered us with boundless compassion, Avinu Malkeinu, for the sake of our ancestors who trusted in you and whom you taught the laws of life. So may you be gracious to us and instruct us. Kind Creator, have compassion for us. Open our hearts so that we may understand and discern, hear and study, observe, perform, and fulfill all the teachings of your Torah with love. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, attach our hearts to your mitzvot, unify our hearts to love and revere your name, so that we may never lose hope. As we trust in your great, holy, awe-inspiring name, we will delight and rejoice in your deliverance.
V'havinu leshalom meyad b'kanafot haaretz v'toliteinu koneyut ve'azeinu ki elmo ve'yeshuvotata uvanu v'karta mikolam v'lashon
V'keraftanu
לשמך הגדול סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Hu u'Baruch Shemo.
הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
Amen. We rise as Sadie leads us in the Shema, the affirmation of faith, which she will later be reading from the Torah as part of her portion on this Shabbat. Page 155.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בבתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Shemot Yishmeu. Continue silently at page 156. Remember them to fulfill all my mitzvot and be holy unto your God. I am Adonai your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, am your God in truth.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם.
May be seated. We turn to page 158 and join in the Mi Chamocha, the words that Moses, Miriam, and the Israelites sang on their journey to freedom. חדשה.
שיר מעולים נשימך על שפת הים. יחד כולם ודוברים הליכו ואמרו
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
צור ישראל קומה בעזרת
Baruch Shemo.
גאל ישראל.
Amen. We invite you to rise as you're able. We continue with the chanting of the Tefillah. We chant together the first 3 blessings through page 161, and then invite you to continue silently with the words of tradition and adding the prayers and meditations of your own heart. Page 159.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות תמימות ומביא גורל לבניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועז השרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מקיים מתים אתה רב להושיע מחלק לחיים בחסד מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ברובי חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני העבר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומיתו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמרתי שמותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאיך וכרזה אל זה ואמר קדוש קדוש קדוש
אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו
אז וקודש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים ליום הצרפים
לעומתם ברוך יאמרו
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקום המלכינו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי בחכים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב ימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים והנה תירנה תירנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי וזכר על ידי דוד משיח צדקך
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוקי ציון לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור לדור ודור
ולנצח
Baruch hu Baruch Shemo. We continue silently through page 166 with the words of tradition and the meditations of our own hearts.
May our words of prayer and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our Rock and our Redeemer. May the one who makes peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel and all who dwell on earth. And to this we say, Amen. Please be seated. We continue on page 167 with Kaddish Shalem. Shabbat Shalom. So about 4 years ago, when my older daughter, Naomi, was 2.5 years old, we noticed that she was singing the Shema to her stuffed animals. We actually have this on video, so if you see me after Shabbat and want to show it to you, I can do that. So when we asked her why she was doing this, she replied, "Because I'm putting them to bed." Now this made sense to her because according to Naomi, at 2.5 years old, when you put someone to bed, you sing them the Shema. It's a Jewish practice to recite the Shema before one goes to bed, and Jenna and I have been singing Shema to our children since they were babies. At that age, they of course have no idea what the Shema translates to in English, nor could they comprehend the many different interpretations of this fundamental statement of Jewish faith. The purpose of reciting Shema before bed to children is a cultural marker of identity, inculcating that identity before children are even able to identify what being Jewish means. The practice of reciting Shema before bed is ancient, and it has informed the practice of saying Shema before our eternal rest, the last thing a Jew should say before he or she dies. The Shema is said twice daily in prayer, once in the morning service, once in the evening service. And ancient Jewish sources tell us that he was even recited as part of the practice of sacrificial worship in the ancient temple. The Shema stands out from the rest of Jewish liturgy, firstly because it is a statement directly from the Torah, and not a prayer composed by our ancient rabbinic sages. And secondly, because it is a statement in which we do not address God, but rather each other. Now, most other prayers begin Baruch Atah Adonai, blessed are you, Adonai. And when we say that formula, we are speaking to God, praising God for some action or divine attribute. When we say Shema, we are speaking to each other and making a declaration of faith. Blessings that begin Baruch Atah Adonai are certainly declarations of faith, but only in the sense that we are ascribing some attribute to God, giving thanks to God as the source of whatever we're talking about, whether that's eating an apple or lighting Shabbat candles or hearing thunder. The Shema is different because it's just a statement of faith, with no other qualifier or descriptive element. And we do this by declaring it and affirming our collective faith to each other. We quote Moses in the Torah, as we say, Shema Yisrael, commonly translated as Hear O Israel, but more accurately, listen up, all you Jews. Then after we have each other's attention, we say Adonai Eloheinu, meaning the God whose name we don't really pronounce, but is spelled Yud He Vav He. That's our God. And we conclude with Adonai Echad. Adonai is one, alone, unique, with Jewish tradition providing many answers to what this word might mean, but that's another teaching for another time. Ultimately, when we say the Shema, we confirm the unity and centrality of God. Now, we will hear the Shema chanted in a few moments in its context from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6. The entire book of Deuteronomy is a collection of Moses' last speeches, his ethical will to future generations, and a summary and restatement of the rest of the Torah. It integrates law and narrative into a single vision of a society under the sovereignty of God, governed by law, justice, compassion, dignity, and the sanctity of human life. The glue that holds this society together is covenant, the commitment of the people to themselves and to God. Of all the books in the Torah, Deuteronomy is especially demonstrative of this in its frequent speaking about love. Now, Deuteronomy mentions the word love, or one of its forms, ahava, 23 times more than any of the other 4 books of the Torah combined. And each instance is about the love between God and Israel. God's love for Israel is enumerated by a detailed code of law that covers nearly all aspects of life applicable to individuals and to the nation as a whole. Immediately following the Shema in the Torah, words which are very familiar to all of us, we read, "You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." In Jewish liturgy, before the Shema, we find a prayer in the evening service called Ahavat Olam, and the morning service called Ahava Rabbah, that illustrates God's love for Israel, both of which tell us that we are loved because we have received the greatest gift of all, the Torah, the guidebook for a meaningful life. The story of God and Israel is a story of mutual love held together by a loving commitment to live according to a set of moral laws and ritual practices. Today, we think of love as emotion, but love is only an emotion that is perceived through action. Several years ago, author Frank Bruni wrote an article in the New York Times called "The Myth of Quality Time." In it, he states, quote, "Sustained proximity is the best route to the soul of someone. Unscripted gestures at unexpected junctures yield sweeter rewards than scripted ones. The I love you that counts most isn't the one whispered with great ceremony on a hilltop in Tuscany. It slips out casually, spontaneously, in the produce section of the supermarket, or over the dishes, amid the drudgery of routine. That's also when the truest confessions are made, when hurt is at its rawest and tenderness at its purest." End quote. I think this resonates with any couple in a committed relationship. It reminds me of a particular practice that I have as part of the daily routine in my own home. Many mornings during the week, I wake up at 5:30 to go to the gym. Before I leave, I empty the drying rack And if need be, unload the dishwasher, putting away all the dishes that have been sitting there drying since the previous night's dinner. That way, when Jenna comes downstairs with the girls to get them ready for school, the kitchen is clear with no clutter for her to deal with. It may not be a grand gesture or some glamorous proclamation, but it's an act of love and commitment. Commitment, according to modern thinker David Brooks, is, quote, falling in love with something and then building a structure of behavior around it to sustain that love over time, end quote. Just as we do this in our families with the ones we love, the Jewish people do this with mitzvot. Our laws, customs, and traditions habituate love for being Jewish and for God. They are the framework that keeps love alive. The book of Deuteronomy presents law and love as working in tandem. They sustain the love between God and Israel. Now, we find this love mentioned in many of our sacred texts, the Psalms, the words of the prophets, the prayers and poems of our liturgy. And this love has lasted well over 3,000 years. When loving partners in a relationship decrease and cease their loving actions and rituals, that love will wither and die. A marriage doesn't have to feel like a wedding every day. But if the kindnesses and acts of devotion remain, then the glowing embers will always have the chance to burst into flames. So too with Judaism. When Jews do not practice Judaism, they lose their identity. Every day doesn't have to be as introspective as Yom Kippur, as joyous as Hanukkah, or as detailed as Passover. But having a regular, intentional Jewish practice goes a long way to sustaining one's identity and love for tradition. When we consider all of Jewish law, we often find out what to do and how to do it. Less often do we find out why we should do it. Deuteronomy clearly explains the why in the simplest terms. Jewish practice is the framework of acts and deeds that sustains the love between God and Israel, so that the love remains long after the passionate feelings of the revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai, when they are merely a distant memory. Love takes work. It needs a structure of rituals, small acts of kindness, and gestures of self-sacrifice for the sake of the lovers. This framework pays off in the long run with love that lasts a lifetime. Doing mitzvot is how we show our love of God, and reciting the Shema is the simplest way we Jews remind ourselves of the commitment that we have to each other and to God. Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 168 with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of the Torah.
In kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'en kema'asecha malachotecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai Eloh le'olam va'ed Adonai uz yamoid v'yiz Adonai v'harich et amo b'shalom av harachamim hitiva v'tzonacha et Zion tivnei cholmot Yerushalayim ki vecha levad ratachnu melech Ram ben Yisa Adon olamim.
Let us rise as the doors of the Aron HaKodesh are opened by Evan Cohen, Sadie's brother.
ויהי בנשוא אהרון ויאמר משה קומה אדוני
transmitted through the long generations of our people, from Moses to the prophets, teachers to disciples, parents to children, and from the people Israel to the world. On this Shabbat, we continue this long chain of tradition, as Sadie receives the Torah from her parents and grandparents as she becomes Beth-EL.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai iti uromema shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai agedul ve'agevura ve'atiferet ve'adeh itzaf ve'ha'od. Kikol hashamayim u'ba'aretz kikol hashamayim u'ba'aretz lecha Adonai ha'malcha ve'ha'mitaseh lechol rosh.
Please be seated.
Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lechi lach to a place you do not know. Lechi lach on your journey. I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
I put on the talit as a reminder that I now become a responsible member of the Jewish people. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit.
Well, I'm not used to talking on this bima. My Instagram name is Ima on the bima, which means mommy on the bima, for which I wear many hats in my daily job as cantor, wife, mom, taxi, manager, and so much more. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I always take note when I pull up to our beautiful campus here at Beth-El Tzedek, how lucky I am to serve such an amazing congregation, and to bring up my family here is just one of the many fringe benefits. So if I may take some professional liberties before I speak directly to Sadie. She'll be patient. Rabbi Dennis and Rabbi Sandy, there she is, Rabbi Sandy. Mark and I are eternally grateful for your support and mentorship throughout my career. But more so, you are not just my colleagues, you are our family's rabbis, you are our friends, and for this we are blessed. Having you both here with us today to share in our simcha goes beyond words. Thank you. Rabbi Hal, we are excited that Sadie's bat mitzvah in some ways marks episode 6, Return of the Rabbi. I look forward to once again sharing the bima with you and many more simchas to come with you and Jenna and the family. Sherry, our executive director extraordinaire, is there anything that you can't do? You are my friend, my sister. You are always there for me and for my family. We love you. Thank you for everything. Our entire dedicated staff and board of directors, every day I get to work with the most amazing team of professionals and volunteers. I especially want to express my sincere gratitude to them on behalf of my family for helping to create the most warm and loving, inviting Jewish community to raise my family. Thank you. Now, Sadie. Daddy and I named you after a Beatles song, No Peeking, which happens to have one of the most beautiful and Jewish lyrics ever written. The world was waiting just for you. Now, I doubt that John and Paul were thinking about the Jewish value of B'Tselem Elohim when they were writing the song, but truly in considering this tradition that all people are created in the image of God and that each of us are unique, one singular sensation, inimitable originals. Of course the world was waiting just for you, Sadie. The world, in fact, would be incomplete without you, according to this tradition. Now, while the world might be a quieter place without you, it would indeed be extraordinarily less fun. You are more often found singing than doing anything else in your life, which is just fine with all of us. You have been singing since you have been talking, and dancing since you have been walking. Performing is what you love, and people love watching you perform. You make people happy through your talents. You have been wowing people since you were a little girl with your barefoot, "Hi, my name is Sadie Cohen, and I am this many years old, and I will be singing this today" videos. And as today is also Shabbat Nachamu, the Sabbath of comfort, I think it is notable that with your beautiful voice, you are able to provide so much comfort and happiness to people. Remember, your voice is mighty and fierce, and in a time when there is so much divisiveness in our world, your voice has the power and potential to make a difference and change the world. Do not forsake it. And while most people here know of your musical attributes, they may not realize that you are actually modest and humble, a quality our sages praised. I am always impressed about how very hard you work to maintain the quality of the work you do. Evan has always looked up to you, but now you have inspired him to also want to do what you do. And you are passionate about what you love, and what you love fiercely. Whether that is family, friends, a favorite show or song, you love it fiercely with all your heart and with all your might, just like the words from the Via Hafta in your Torah portion you are about to read and teach us about in just a bit. You are a conscientious student, a dedicated and loyal friend, And I have so enjoyed watching you develop your tight-knit circles of school and theater friends. So many of them are here today. I mean, it's crazy how you all really do finish each other's sandwiches. And your and your art, you love the process of putting it together. Most people don't. They only look towards the reward, the performance, not you. You always say the longer the rehearsal,
The better.
the better. If I'm being honest, she'd really like me to just leave her at Civic all day with some friends, maybe some snacks and a cot. I don't know why she didn't feel the same way about her bat mitzvah lessons with mom, but, you know. Okay. Your parsha commands us to listen, Shema. We've been talking about that a lot today already, which often requires patience. I had the unique honor and task to be both mom and cantor during this process of putting it together, bit by bit, piece by piece. And Stephen Sondheim of blessed memory reminds us in this process that first of all, you need a good foundation. Otherwise, it's risky from the start. And Sadie, you have a good foundation. You are grounded in your commitments, focus, relationships, and faith, which you have always been rooted. It's always been rooted in Torah and family. And we are proud of you. Not only do we love you, we like you. I love all the fun we have together, all the things we have in common, but mostly I just love watching you and being with you. I try freezing the pictures and saving them from the funny tricks of time, but you just keep growing. I love how you still seem to want me with you backstage, both literally and proverbially, because like we learn from Sondheim's Little Red, don't be scared, just be prepared. Isn't it nice to know a lot and a little bit not? And I like to think that you know I will always be here for the little bit not parts, no matter what, and no matter how old you are, and no matter how many valuable things you learn along the way. I know you don't do sad, but I would be remiss if I did not mention Papi Steve. Our hearts break that he is not here because he should have been with us today. He was so proud of you and loved you so much. And I know how much you loved him, and he would be beaming with pride to see you up here today, carrying on our people's tradition, L'Dor Vador. We unveiled and dedicated his grave marker yesterday as a family. Today is the 16th of Av, which marks exactly 11 months on the Jewish calendar. So later in the service, according to tradition, will be the last time we will stand and recite Kaddish for him, paving the way to our celebration tonight. Nachamu, comfort yourself. Full circle. Mimi is wearing his talis, and he is wrapping his arms around us. His presence is all around us. Well, I am no Lin-Manuel, but I pieced together some lyrics for my blessing to you, from one Broadway baby to another, that I hope will inspire you. I know it's today. Your great adventure has begun. You may be small, but you've got giant plans to shine as greatly as the sun. Be fearless. Be astonishing. Stay a child while you can be a child. Don't let anyone rain on your parade. If you want the works, the whole works, go get it now. Your future is unlimited. Be like Elphaba and make good. Defy gravity and use your voice to make a difference in the world. Rise up for those who are living on their knees. Sadie, you blow us away every day. And we are so lucky to be along this journey with you, to watch you do the million things you haven't done yet. And on this Shabbat, you will have your first Aliyah and rise up. That's what Aliyah means. Today, you plant your legacy in your commitment to your faith, your heritage, your people, and in Torah on this very bima that you have grown up on, that I am blessed to serve, and that our family calls its spiritual home. May you always, always amaze and astonish in all you do. I love you.
I want to also thank everyone that's Melissa's thanks, of course. Little known fact, Rabbi Hal and I share a couple things. A birthday on October 31st. We also get lots of compliments about our hair from strangers. Sadie's Parsha is about the Ten Commandments. Moses, the Sinai, coming down to the people of Israel. So I have a few more commandments for Sadie, inspired by musical theater that we all love, and I hope she will think about them and incorporate them into her life. I changed it to a British accent to keep me from tearing up. I figured that's the method I use. Be part of this world. Attend to its poor, unfortunate souls. The world needs you, people like you engaged. You are rich in spirit, rich in thought, and rich in inner beauty. Share it with those in need. As a natural leader, encourage others to do the same. They will follow. Never be satisfied. That doesn't mean never be happy. It means don't be content with whatever success comes your way. Certainly do not be content with what defeats come your way. The human brain needs experience to thrive and grow. Neuroscience shows us mice raised in environments of toys and obstacles have more complex brains compared to those raised in isolation, and they have more stronger learning capacity. Explore your world, explore the people around you, stretch your experience. Don't be comfortable with where you are or who you are. You will never forget it. Sing for me, the Phantom commands Christine. When you look in the mirror, know that the me is you. Even if professional singing is not in the cards, don't ever deprive yourself of sitting at the piano and singing. Yes, for me and Mom, hearing your voice daily from all corners of our house is our antidepressant, our anti-anxiety. I think you two are most at peace when the music is flowing through you. Do it for yourself first and foremost. Whether you're on Broadway or you are doing a 9-to-5 job and you need that inner peace at the end of the day, don't ever forsake the peace your voice brings to your soul. This is a little bit more obscure one. Say something, talk to me. Allison from Fun Home, she's sitting next to her dad. She just wants to hear from his heart. Sadie, we have you for maybe 5 more years in our home. You have a bunch of friends that you share secrets and dreams and hopes. But don't forget, me and your mom are here too. We've had many experiences, both as a preteen and teen, and we know stuff. Talk to us. Talk to us. Girl, Sadie girl, stay cool, girl, coolly cool. Sadie, will you come by your strong emotions honestly? Me, your mom, our beloved Poppy Steve, my father here, we all get that fire in our belly. That's a euphemism for a temper. But just as Rabbi Dennis reminded us yesterday, the world is a different place and needs to be approached differently than ever before. Playing it cool means controlling those emotions, shaping them into something actionable. It is a skill that needs to be learned and practiced. I used to be much better at it than I am now. Let's learn to play it cool together. I love you.
We are going to turn to the reading of the Torah for this Shabbat, and I ask you to access the Eitz Chaim Torah commentaries. If you don't have it yet with you, there are some extra copies in the back of the Simon Sanctuary. The Torah portion for this Shabbat is entitled Va'et Hanan, and it begins, for purposes of our reading, with chapter 6 on page 1024. And you will all recognize this passage because it is in fact the text of the Shema that we have been reciting, and which now Sadie will chant from its original Torah context. So on page 1024, at verse 4 of chapter 6, for the first Aliyah, we call on Sadie's parents, Cantor Melissa and Dr. Mark Cohen.
ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל הבוקות אל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה. יעמוד ראשון ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha. Ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam. V'shivtecha bevatecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Nala amot sheni.
For the second Aliyah, we invite grandmother Sue Rosenblum. We honor the memory of grandfather Steve Rosenblum. Cantor Melissa will chant the next Aliyah beginning at verse 10.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'haya ki yaviach Adonai Elohecha el haaretz asher nishba lavotecha le'Avraham le'Yitzchak u'Yaakov latet lach arim gedolot v'tovot asher lo vanita uvatim meleim kotuv asher lo mileta uvorot chatzuvim asher lo chatzavta keramim v'zeitim asher lo natata v'achata v'stavata Yishamer lecha pentishcha et Adonai asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim et Adonai Elohecha tira ve'oto ta'avod uvishmo teshabeha lo hotzel lakun acharei Elohim acherim melohei amim asher sevivotechem ki elkana Adonai Elohecha bekirbecha pen yachareh af Adonai Elohecha Becha v'hishmidaka me'al penei ha'adama.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notain haTorah.
Amen.
Nala Amot Shlishi.
For the third Aliyah, we invite Uncle Adam Rosenblum and Aunt Heather Rosenblum. We're reading at verse 16 on page 1028.
Baruch Adonai Havorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo tenasu et Adonai Elohechem ka'asher nisitem b'masa. Shemor tishmerun et mitzvot Adonai Elohechem ve'edotav ve'chukav asher tivach va'asita hayashar ve'hatov ve'enei Adonai lema'an yitav lach uvata ve'yarasta et ha'aretz hatova asher nishba Adonai le'avotecha lehadov et kol oyevecha mipanecha ka'asher diber Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'toheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Nala Amot Revi'i.
For the fourth Aliyah, we invite grandparents Steve and Sandy Cohen. Reading at verse 20, 6:20, page 1028. Some of you may recognize this. Go ahead. I'm just going to say some of you may recognize this opening verse that Sadie is going to chant as part of the Passover Seder. When your children ask about these laws and rituals, this is the entry to the 4 questions and the 4 children.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natanu Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki yishalecha vincha machar lemor ma ha'edot v'hachukim v'hamishpatim asher tiva Adonai Eloheinu etchem ve'yamarta levincha avadim hayinu lefar'o b'mitzrayim vayotzienu Adonai mimitzrayim b'yad chazaka Vayitain Adonai Otot Umotim Gedolim Veraim Bemitzrayim Befar'o Uvechol Beito Le'einenu Veyotanu Hotzi Misham Lema'an Havi Otanu Lateit Banu Et Haaretz Asher Nishba le'avoteinu Vayetzavenu Adonai La'asot et kol hachukim ha'ele Le'yir'a et Adonai Eloheinu Le'tov lanu kol hayamim L'chayotenu kehayom hazeh Utzedakah tiheye lanu Ki nishmor la'asot et kol hamitzvah hazot Lifnei Adonai Eloheinu Kasher Tzivanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natalanu Torah emet v'chai olam natala lachinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Nala Amot Hamishi.
For the fifth Aliyah, we invite aunts Jill Niewoner and Alyssa Cohen.
All right, you laughed at Papa, you laughed at me, I'm out of here. Oh, we Dr. Big Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch Adonai Hamarach. Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu I'm lost. Amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. I'm nervous, Sadie.
It's okay. Amen. Ki yaviacha Adonai Elohecha el haaretz asher ata v'shama l'rishta v'nashal goyim rabim mipanecha hachiti v'hagirgashi v'haemori v'hakne'ani v'haprizi v'hachivi v'haivusi shiva goyim rabim v'atzumim mimeka untanam Adonai Elohecha lepanecha vehikitam hacharem techarim otam lo tikrot lahem berit velo techonem velo titchatein bam bitcha lo titain livno uvito lo tikach livnecha ki asir et bincha me'acharai ve'avdu Elohim acherim v'chara af Adonai bachem v'hishmircha maher ki imko te'asu lahem mitzmechotehem titotsu umatzevotam tisheberu ve'asherehem tigadeun ufesilehem tisrefun ba'esh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Nala Amot Shishi.
For the sixth Aliyah, which continues
Very
with the
good. I
reading
was
on
watching,
page
you got it all
1030, pleasure to call on cousins Alex Cohen, Ben Niewoner, Eliza Niewoner, and Madeline Niewoner, whom we extend a mazel tov on her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Not just any birthday.
18. She's an adult.
18th birthday.
18 adult.
It's a high celebration. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki am kadosh ata l'Adonai Elohecha v'echa bechor Adonai Elohecha liolo le'am segula mikol ha'amim asher el pnei ha'adama lo merubchem mikol ha'amim chashak Adonai bachem ve'yivchar bachem ki atem hamad mikol hamim ki ma'ahavat Adonai etchem ומשומרו את השבועה אשר נשבע לאבותיכם הוציא אדוני אתכם ביד חזקה ויפתחה מבית עבדים מיד פרעה מלך מצרים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Na'amot shvi'i.
For the seventh Aliyah, we welcome to the Bima Rabbis Dennis and Sandy Sasso, and the reading will be verse 9 on page 1031.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirvanu la'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'yadata ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'Elohim ha'el ha'ne'eman shomer ha'brit ve'ha'chesed le'ohavav u'shomrei mitzvotav le'elef dor u'mshalem le'sonav el panav le'ha'avido lo ya'acher le'sono el panav yeshalem lo v'shamarta et ha'mitzvah ve'et ha'chukim ve'et ha'mishpatim asher anochi mitzavecha hayom la'asotam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Sorry about that. Sadie, terrific.
Please rise for a Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadol v'yikadash shemei Rabba Be'alma divarach yirutei v'amlich malchutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chaye dekol beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'vizman karim V'emeru Amen Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach Le'alam ulam me'amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yiramam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei dekudasha v'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'ne'emata Da'ami hiram le'alma V'emeru Amen.
We continue with the Maftir as Sadie is called to the Torah, verse 9, page 1031. You may be seated.
Ta'amod Hane'ara Leah Esther bat Moshe HaKohen u'malka Pesha hechazan bat hamitzvah maftira hachazaka.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. There it is. V'yadata ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'Elohim ha'el ha'ne'eman shomer ha'brit v'ha'chesed le'ohavav ul'shomrei mitzvotav le'elef dor umshalei lesonav el panav leha'avido lo ya'acher leson o el panav yeshalem lo v'shamarta et ha'mitzvah ve'et ha'chukim ve'et ha'mishpatim asher anochi mitzavecha hayom la'asotam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Please rise for the lifting and dressing of the Sefer Torah, and to the honors of Hagba and Aliyah, we invite Rabbi Hal Shevitz and Shari Levine. Please be seated. The Haftarah that Sadie will chant begins on page 1033, and it is a special reading from the prophet Isaiah that gives to this Shabbat the name of Shabbat Nachamu, the Sabbath of comfort, and it is the first of 7 Haftarot of consolation that will move us towards the beginning of a new year, the High Holy Days. So, chanting from chapter 40 of the book of Isaiah on page 1033.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzav v'divrehem ha'ne'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nvi'ei ha'emet Batzedek. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar, Elohechem, Dabru, Alev, Yerushalayim, Vekiru, Eleha, Ki, Mal'at, Seva'ah, Ki Nirtzah, Avona, Ki, Lacha, Miyad, Adonai, Kiflayim bechol chatoteha kol kore bamidbar panu derech Adonai yashru be'arava mesila leloheinu kol ge yinaseh v'chocher v'giva yishpadu v'haya he'akov lemishor V'har chasim levik'a v'nigla kevod Adonai v'ra'u chol basar yachdav ki pi Adonai diber kol omer kera ve'amar ma'ekra kol habasar chatzir v'chol chasto ketzitz hasadeh yavesh chatzir navel tzitz ki ruach Adonai nashva bo achin chatzir ha'am yavesh chatzir navel tzitz Udvar Eloheinu Yakum Leolam. Al har gavoha alilach ivaseret Zion harimi vakoach kolech mevaseret Yerushalayim harimi al tirai imri le'arei Yehuda hine Elohechem hine Adonai Elohim bechazak yavo Uzro'o, Moshlalo, Hine, Secharo, Ito, Ufe'ulato, Lepanav, Kero Edro, Yir'eh, Bizro'o, Yekabetz, Telaim, Uvcheko, Yisa, Alot, Yenahel, Ve'el mitedam yuni, ve'eshve yomar kadosh, se'umarom enechem or'u, mivara ele, hamotzi bemispar, tzeva'am lechulam, beshem yikra, mero onim, be'amitz koach, Yishlo Ne'edar. Okay. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Sor Kol HaOlamim Tzaddik Bechol Hadorot Ha'el HaNe'eman HaOmer Ve'osei Hamdaber Unkayim Shechol Devarav Emet Vatzedek Ne'eman, Atahu Adonai Eloheinu, V'ne'emanim devarecha, V'devar echad mivarecha, Achor yolashuv rekam, Ki el melech ne'eman, V'rachaman ata, Baruch ata Adonai, Ha'el ha'ne'eman bechol devarav. Rachem al Zion ki he beit chayenu v'la aluvat nefesh toshia bimhera v'yamenu Baruch ata Adonai mesameach Zion bevaneha Samchenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha uvmalchut beit David meshichecha Bimhera yavo ve'yagel libenu al ki solo yishiv zar velo yinchalu od acherim et kevodo ki v'shem kodshecha nishbata lo shelo yichbein ero leolam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai Magen David Al ha-Torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al hanvi'im, ve'al yom ha-Shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, lechavod u'tifaret. Al hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umvarchim otach, Yitbarach Shimcha, B'fi kol chai, Tamid leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov,
Please rise as we continue on page 183 as we prepare to return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. We welcome to the Bima Dan Niewaner and Jonas Cohen, Sadie's uncle and cousin, to open the doors of the Ark.
Ki Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Etzayim hi lamachzik baba metum meushar deracheha darchinoam bechol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai inecha benashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu
Please be seated. Sadie will now share some words of Torah with us and the importance of this day in her life.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom. My Torah portion is called Beth-EL. It contains not one, but two of the most important and famous verses in all of the Torah, the Ten Commandments and the Shema. As many of you know, I'm a musical theater girl, and right now I'm really loving the Broadway show Into the Woods. So, into the Torah we go. At this point in the Torah narrative, the Israelites are nearing the end of their journey. Moses is talking to the people and giving his last teachings and final words of wisdom to them before they go on to the land of promise without him. He reminds them of the Mitzvot, the 10 Commandments, given to them at Sinai following the Exodus from Egypt. These rules, which actually amount to a total of 613 commandments, are really more of a way of life, or a guidebook for how to be good people. This makes me think of the witch from Into the Woods, who reminds us, careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. After leading the people through the wilderness, their woods, for 40 years, Moses wants them to listen. Shema. Moses cares for the people like a parent cares for their children and wants them to know how to continue on as a people without him so they are not lost in the woods. The words of the Shema are very similar to this advice. Not only do these words remind us that God alone is one, but also what follows in the Ve'ahavta section, that we will teach these words to our children from generation to generation. The great Stephen Sondheim continues the witch's song with Guide Them Along the Way. Children will look to you for which way to turn, children will listen. Later in my portion, Moses even says, when your children ask you about these commandments, you will say to your children, Avadim hayinu lafaro b'Mitzrayim, because we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. These words made their way directly into the Haggadah and became the basis of our yearly Passover Seder, leading the questions we ask as children to our parents as to who we are as a free people. But now, more than ever, our freedom is in question, and grown-ups need to know that children are listening and watching. We learn from your examples. We are the next generation, and we will not stay quiet about the things that we are passionate about. We are listening and ready to take action. Anne Frank was my age when she went into hiding, and instead of having a bat mitzvah, was silenced. But she was wise beyond her years and wrote in her diary that, quote, parents can only give good advice or put them on the right paths, but the final forming of a person's character lies in their own hands. I have been lucky to grow up in a home where love is love and kindness rules. We have always lived by the words of the Shema and Ve'ahavta, loving God and one another with all our hearts and with all our soul. In doing so, we love all people equally, with kindness and respect, which is the ultimate sign of faith. I am so grateful for so many people in my life who I have listened to along my own journey into the woods and now know many valuable things from. Rabbi Dennis and Rabbi Sandy. Beth-El is so lucky to have not one, but two living legends as role models for the congregation. I have loved knowing both of you since I was a baby. Rabbi Sandy, you are truly an inspiration to all Jewish women. Rabbi Dennis, thank you for teaching me about Judaism and letting me teach you about QR codes. Rabbi Hal, I'm so glad that you are back at Beth-El as our rabbi and being here with me on my special day. And if you are ever looking for a babysitter, I'm your girl. Cantor Melissa, thank you for teaching me everything you know and helping me prepare for my bat mitzvah, of course. George Kelly and all my religious school teachers, thank you for everything I have learned throughout my years at Beth-El Tzedek. I look forward to continuing my education through confirmation. Mama and Papa, thank you for always loving me unconditionally and being there for me. I love visiting you in Ohio and doing special things together. And happy early birthday, Papa. I love you both. Mimi, thank you for everything you have done for me. I love having sleepovers with you and going on ice cream runs at 1 a.m. I love how close you are with my friends and how you are everyone's Mimi. You are so kind to everyone you meet. I love you so much. Evan, you are such an amazing brother. Even though sometimes you can be annoying, I love hanging out with you. Whether it's running into each other in the kitchen at 3 a.m. or playing video games with you, you are always energetic and ready to have a good time. I have enjoyed watching you grow up, and it has been so special to perform on stage with you. Love you, Avievskers. Mom and Dad, they're okay, I guess. Just kidding. Dad, thank you for always loving me and being there for me and for all of my events and shows. I love forcing you to watch TV shows with me, and I love listening to 80s music in the car with you at top volume. You are always there to help me with anything music-related, from a guitar chord to figuring out harmonies to the Hanukkah blessings. I love you so, so much. You are the best. Mom, thank you for everything you have done for me. You always listen to all of my drama and give me amazing advice on how to fix things. You bring me to every rehearsal and every friend's house and are on time, most of the time. You always do things with me, whether it's listening to show tunes on the radio or seeing shows on Broadway, and rushing through Target with me 5 minutes before the store closes. You have been there through this entire process and made this day so amazing and special for me. I love you to the moon and back, my Android queen. Thank you to everyone for being here to share this special day with me. I am so proud to become a bat mitzvah at Beth-El Tzedek. Shabbat shalom.
Stand with your parents over there. Pretty good. This is a moment so filled with tradition that I think is appropriate that I should start by saying, "Is this the little girl you carry?" That's it. No more of that. Sadie, when you and I first talked about your becoming a bat mitzvah, you told me that it was exciting, that it was cool, and terrifying. From the beautiful way you have chanted and led the service today, it is clear that you have overcome the terrifying part. I know it is still cool and certainly exciting. Sadie, as one who is comfortable on the stage, you know that being nervous is natural. It means that we care about what we are doing, that it is important. Today you have shown us that this moment is meaningful, not only because your mom is the cantor of the synagogue and your parents are so committed to Judaism, but because this moment is important for you. When we met at the beginning of your bat mitzvah preparation, we talked about the difference between being on stage, on the theater, and on the bima of the synagogue. Now, you have played many different characters on stage, but on this Shabbat and on this bima, you are who you are. Sadie Esther Cohen, Leah Esther bat Moshe HaKohen, Umalka Pesha. You don't pretend to be somebody else. Today you read lines that have been handed down through the generations. They are like the script of the play. But these lines are not somebody else's lines. They are words that you share with hundreds of generations that came before you. Tradition. And this is not somebody else's story. This is your story, Sadie. It is our story. And to those scripted lines, you have added your own words, your own feelings, your own interpretations. They have come from your mind, from your heart, and through your voice. They tell us who Sadie is. Who you are is, of course, connected to your dear family, and we rejoice with my dear colleague, Cantor Melissa, and with Mark, with your grandparents, Sandy and Stephen and Sue. The memory of your grandfather, Steve, blesses this moment, and I know how proud he would have been of you. Sadie, when I asked you to tell me about yourself, you told me that you were outgoing, creative, and loyal. You said that being loyal and trustworthy are the most important qualities that you admire in other people. Sadie, becoming a bat mitzvah is all about being trustworthy. It means that others can depend on you, that they can count on you. And that's what it means to be part of a minyan, to be counted upon, to be part of a community of prayer, of celebration, and of tradition. Now, you also told me that having fun is an important part of who you are. And I can sense, Sadie, that today you were having fun. Being surrounded by your family and friends, and being able to accomplish what you have learned and practiced for many months, being part of this community, is all part of having a good time. I know that you will continue to have many an opportunity for having a good time in this congregation as you continue to sing the song of our people and carry our memories into your day-to-day life. Well, Sadie, you were fortunate to have your mom as your tutor for this day, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I know that even as that made things easy, it also brought some additional pressure. You have made your mom, your dad, your brother Evan, your grandparents, your rabbis, everybody here is so proud. Sadie, we don't give a Tony Award for a bat mitzvah. We give a Torah award. It is not a one-time award, it is a lifetime commitment. We know that you will continue to deserve it as you continue to grow into Jewish womanhood. So today, we present it to you, the Torah Award. The Haftarah of this Shabbat, which you have chanted so beautifully, offers a message of comfort and hope, as your mother said earlier. Challenging things have happened in the world, in your own life, you told me, among your friends during the past year. And you told me that you felt that you had matured in who you are, in your relationships, in your appreciation, and in your meaning of what becoming a bat mitzvah is all about. Seeing young people like you on this bima gives comfort and hope to the future. To me, your parents, to this congregation. Shabbat Nachamu begins our 7 weeks pilgrimage to Rosh Hashanah, a new year of comfort and of hope. We all pray that your sweet voice will carry us into the reality of that new year. Mazel Tov, we love you, and we're very happy to celebrate with you and your parents and family. So I'm going to ask your mom and dad to place their hands over your shoulder, and I'm going to ask your mom to sing each line of the Yevarechecha, and and then I will say it in English. Or you prefer that I should sing and she should? No, I think we'll let her sing. May God bless you and keep you. May God be gracious unto you and show you kindness.
Isa Adonai, panav elecha v'konecha, yasem lecha Adonai, v'shalom.
May God look with favor upon you and grant you Sadie and all your family a life of health, a life of joys, and a life of peace. We're going to say Asher Heyanu too, to celebrate the significance of this moment. And as I said last night, this is a first for me as well, because Rabbi Sandy and I have officiated at the B'nai Mitzvah of our children and grandchildren, but this is the first time that we do it at the Bat Mitzvah of a child of a beloved colleague. So I'll say along with you and with the family, Asher Heyanu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sheheyanu v'kiyimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Blessed is the eternal God who has granted us life, health, and the privilege of celebrating this day. We have a few gifts for you. We'll ask Cantor Melissa, you know her, to go and pull it out. These are new. These are new Beth-El backpacks. And they contain much of what you will need to continue in your Jewish journey of song and celebration. We have we have the Eitz Chaim Torah commentary that you may continue to learn Torah, a prayer book to continue to deepen your spiritual and prayer life, a tzedakah box, candlesticks, all the things that will continue to help make Shabbat and Jewish celebration a special part of your life, as it already is. So this is just a continuation. Gifts from the Federation, Men's Club, Sisterhood, and your rabbis. And I think we'll mention the cantor too. Right? Okay, you can hug and kiss now.
Is that next?
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
What's next, Rabbi?
We sing a Musa.
So, normally in the preliminary part of the service, we would sing the words of Psalm 150, Hallelujah. We skipped over that and are going to hear, I guess it's a family affair, with a Cohen duet and on guitar. This is Psalm 150, set to a melody composed by Leonard Cohen. You can follow along on page 141 of the Siddur, 141.
Oh, that's for me?
Hallelujah.
Please rise as we continue on page 205 with Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, להטיף גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו גודלים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שירות בשמיים ויעשה רצון. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו
I'd like to invite those of you who observe Yortzeit or are in the period of mourning for a loved one to remain standing. We turn to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 207. I am looking for a copy of the announcement leaflet, and I do not have it with me. So if somebody would just read the names. Thank you very much, Madeline. On this Shabbat, we remember loved ones who have died in recent days and weeks. Ellen Bonnie Kressel, Robert Borns, Ron Elberger, Louis Herman, and we keep very much in our hearts the memory of Stephen Rosenblum on this family Shabbat of celebration. We honor the memories of those who have died in recent days and those the anniversary of whose passing occurred during the last week, in loving testimony to the faith that links the generations, those who mourn, and all who remember, sanctify the words of the Kaddish. Yit kadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabba. Be'olma divra kiriute ve'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon ve'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizvan kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach, ve'alam u'leolmei olmaya, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דא אמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. May God, the source of peace, grant comfort to all the bereaved, peace to the household of Israel, and to all humanity. And let us say amen. Please be seated. My pleasure to invite the president of our congregation, Todd Maurer, to extend greetings and make some announcements.
Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. I was tempted to sing my announcements, but I didn't think I could live up to the beautiful song we heard today. I think the Cohen family should go on tour. They sing well together. Sadie, Mazel Tov on your bat mitzvah. You did a wonderful job today. You set a great example for everybody here, including your younger brother. But I just want to remind you, your dad said something that may have gone in one ear and out the other, but I just want to reiterate it for you because I think it's very important advice. Listen to your mom and dad. They know what they're talking about. You might hear that a few more times from them over the years, but that's correct, good advice. So listen to your mom and dad. Mazel Tov to my Bima mate on many occasions, Melissa, and to her husband, Dr. Mark Cohen. Just a beautiful service. I also want to extend a Mazel Tov to the grandparents, Susan Rosenblum, and Sandy and Stephen Cohen. Also, while we're talking about the grandparents, we should mention that the Sisterhood Mahjong is going to be on Monday, August 15th from 1 to 4. And Mimi Sue is coordinating that. But we've kind of conspired a little bit today and thought we would eventually have a co-ed Mahjong with some Chinese food to bring in the Jewish and the Chinese game together. So look for that in the future here at Beth-El. I promise to show up and play. I don't promise to win, but I'll play. Also want to let you know that High Holiday packets have gone out in the mail. If you have not received one, please contact the synagogue office. We'll make sure you have all the information. And, it's very fortunate we have Rabbi Hal back at Beth-El. I just want to extend a welcome on behalf of the board of directors to Rabbi Hal. And also, as Sadie mentioned in her remarks, we have two living legends. Rabbi Dennis and Sandy were honored recently by the Indiana Historical Society as living legends. But you might not also know they were honored as being people of impact in Indiana. Just 2 of 250 people in Indiana of impact. So congratulations. It's wonderful to have such great leadership, not only involved in our synagogue, but setting examples for all of us in the community. So thank you to both of you for that. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. And again, a Mazel Tov to Sadie. A wonderful job. She did say she was a little nervous today, but it did not show. She said this was harder than being on stage. I thought it would be the other way around. So, Mazel Tov, Sadie, and to the whole family. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Todd, for all those Mazel Tovs. And we're going to finish with a song that I think brings it all together. All That Jazz. Do we have to sing along?
You might.
And it goes to words that you know, but I don't know how the melody goes with the words. So just listen and participate. Sadie, are you going to be part of this?
Oh, she knows nothing. This is all a surprise. It might go viral after this.
Did I give out a secret?
It might go viral. We never know.
Okay, here we go.
אדון עולם אשר מלך אדון עולם בטרם כל יציר נברא אדון עולם לעץ נשא בחפצו כל אז מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא אדון עולם והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא בלי וחד גואלי וצור חבלי בית שרה אדון עולם והוא ניסי ומנוס לי אדון עולם אדון עולם רת כוסי ביום מקרא אדון עולם אדון עולם בגדול ופקיד רוחי בתשע ויהירה ועם רוחי גבייתי אדוני לי ולא יראה אדון עולם אשר מלך אדון
That's how you jazz up Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Mazel Tov Sadie. Mazel Tov all the family.